All right, hello friends. So tonight, I hope everyone's doing well in the quarantine. I cut my own hair. Didn't come out bad, right? So anyway, tonight I'm going to make one of my faves. You guys are in for a treat. I'm going to show you how to make chicken cacciatore. Here it is. So for our ingredients, obviously we need some chicken. I'm just using so these are 5 pieces of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I like the thighs. I prefer them with bone and skin, but you know we're gonna just work with what we have tonight. So, but they do come out better, I think, with the bone and the skin. The only thing is with the skin on, the skin tends to get soggy in the sauce. So after you brown the skin and put it into the sauce, what I do is keep the skin side of the thighs above the sauce, and that's the workaround so your skin doesn't get soggy. Some garlic, small onion. Doing a small batch. This is just over a pound of meat. I'm gonna use almost a whole, let's say, I guess 2/3 of a yellow bell pepper. I like the yellow because it gives a nice contrast to our tomatoes. I'm only gonna use about half that can of hand crushed tomatoes. You could use red if you have, but I prefer the yellow. Some capers and a cup of homemade chicken stock. Just gonna use about a cup to a half a cup of that as needed. Okay, and we're gonna need some flour. But first thing we wanna do is salt this chicken. So let's do that. So I'm going to salt the chicken, but one thing I forgot to talk about was the wine. I'm going to be using a dry red. You could also use a dry white or dry vermouth. I've really find no difference. I've used them all. I really don't find any difference in how the dish comes out, whether it's a red or a white or a dry vermouth, as long as they're dry. Best way to salt the meat, just by hand, just like that. Just grab a generous portion. This is sea salt. And you really want to give it a good amount of salt and let that salt sit and work its way through the meat. I'm going to give just a little touch of fresh ground pepper, and then we're going to turn them and do the same. And you just really want to let that salt soak in. It'll work its way all the way through the meat as the meat warms up. And ideally let it sit there for an hour and come to room temperature, and it'll be delicious. Okay. All right, so my chicken's been salting for a little bit, so the next step is just to dredge it lightly in some flour, just using regular unbleached white flour, and we want to just dredge it a little bit like that. And in the meantime, I've heated up a skillet with some extra virgin olive oil, right? And so I'm getting that ready. We're gonna brown these guys. So let's just dredge them nice and simple like that. Just make sure we get them all covered. Shake off any excess. And that's the steps. And that's basically the dredging process. And the next step is just to put them in my skillet. All right, folks. So I've heated my skillet. In my skillet, I've heated some extra virgin olive oil, and just gonna drop the chicken thighs in there. And we just want to brown them a little bit. Let that go. And while that's browning, a little more heat there. While that's browning, I'm going to prep my other ingredients. All right, so while my thighs are browning, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dice this into thin strips. Just like that, or actually, let's go that way, and just make some thin strips out of it, and just kind of like that. That's how I'm going to go. Get this guy a little thinner, so that's kind of how I want my onion. And for the pepper, we're going to get the ribs out. Try to get rid of those ribs. And what you want is just thin, let's get rid of that rib there. Just thin strips like that. Okay, so we just want to dice that all to nice, thin, long strips like so. Okay. Gotta turn the chicken. All right, so as you can see, my chicken is nicely browned. I've sliced the peppers into long, thin strips. I've opted to use not the whole pepper, just based upon the amount of chicken I have. I'm going to use about that much of it, so probably about a cup of chicken. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to throw this right into my skillet, lower the heat a little bit, and I throw the onions right in, and we're going to let that cook down a bit. And in the meantime, I'm just gonna dice up this garlic and give that a stir. There's a lot of juice in there from the chicken, so I'm gonna kind of just leave that. If you're using drumsticks or something that doesn't generate as much oil, you may need to add a little bit extra olive oil here. I only cook with extra virgin olive oil for the most part. And that's it. We're basically just gonna dice up this garlic, and we're gonna let that cook down for a little bit until the next step, okay? All right, so here I'm just gonna brown my onions and peppers, and under medium-low heat, and I'm gonna cook those down a little bit. I'm gonna cook those onions down until they're translucent, a couple of minutes, about 10 minutes. And then I'm going to add my garlic. Notice I haven't added the garlic yet, which I've diced. But let's just cook that down for a little bit, and I'm going to show you what it looks like in a couple of minutes. All right, folks, so my onions have gotten translucent there, so I'm going to add my garlic. I've just diced about 2 cloves of garlic. Now remember, I'm not working with a lot of chicken here, so that's going to affect how much I use. Okay, we're just going to saute that a little bit, and just let that garlic go for about a minute, and then we're going to do some magic. All right, so I've cooked that down a little bit, let the garlic cook for about a minute, and here's where we do magic. I'm going to add about a half a cup of the red wine, and I don't measure it. And you can deglaze the pan at this point. We're going to turn the heat up, turn it way up for a minute to cook that away. And any brown bits that would be on the bottom of the pan would add to your sauce at this point. So notice I've turned it up. It's a copper pan, so see how quickly the heat just goes. We're just going to cook that down a little bit. I'm going to cook away some of that alcohol. Cook it down to about half, right? Won't take very long at all. And again, you can use red wine, you can use white wine, dry red, dry white, or dry vermouth. I've not noticed really any real difference in using any one. It doesn't really make much of a difference. To me, the finished product tastes exactly the same. So you'll find recipes calling for one, calling for the other. I don't see any difference. So just want to let that cook down a little bit more. And then next up is we're going to add our tomatoes. Okay, so I've made, this is hand crushed tomatoes. If you haven't seen my marinara video, so basically just crushed by hand. So just about good to go there. Let that cook away a little bit more. And I'm going to add 2 things. I'm going to add the tomatoes. So put those in. Okay. Continue under that high heat. And stir that around a little bit. Continue that high heat. next is going to be the homemade chicken stock. Just doing about a half a cup. Again, I don't have a whole lot of chicken here, so I don't need that much. And at this point, we're going to add some herbs. Well, let's do it this way. I'm going to add the chicken. So I'm just going to put the chicken right back in. And so again, there's not a lot here. Normally my pan is a little more full, so we have more room to play with here. But next we're going to add a couple of herbs. Okay, so let me pause you. All right, so next I'm going to add 1 bay leaf. I'm going to add a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme. And then I'm going to add a couple, in this case about a dozen Kalamata olives. Okay. And just going to stir that in a little bit. And we're at a boil now, so I'm going to just, look how delicious that looks. Just going to add my cover. I'm going to turn the flame back down now, down back to a simmer. And we're going to cover it. And just let that cook down a little bit. Just slightly like that. Just slightly open the cover. All right, folks. So you notice my cacciatore is cooked down. I've been cooking it for like just under an hour. And you notice that the thyme has just sort of fallen off of the stems, and it's ready to serve. See the thickness of the sauce, that consistency? That's what we're looking for. You can cook it for a little longer. It's really a matter of preference at this point, but at this point we're good to go. What you'll do is remove the bay leaf, remove the stems of the thyme, and you can serve that. You can do it over pasta, rice, whatever starch you prefer, potatoes, polenta, but that's it. That's chicken cacciatore. All right, so the cacciatore is done. I'm gonna garnish it with a little fresh parsley, and I'm serving it over casarecce, which just simply means homemade pasta. Again, you could do it over whatever pasta you like. I also do it over rice, basmati rice, which is kind of weird, but that's how we like it. And I'm gonna add a little more fresh parsley, and that's it, guys. That is chicken cacciatore. So disclaimer, guys, I forgot the capers, but I always just add them at the end anyway. So I've just added a little bit here, and just about 2 teaspoons full. And I just added a little bit to my plate. But you want some capers in there, but you don't want them cooking with the sauce. We add them at the end.